when our platoons all broke recruit training, they divided them into 3 segments. And one segment from each of those platoons went to either the Tuscaloosa, its sister ship, the Quincy, or its sister ship, the Vincennes. So there's 3 ships that are exactly alike, figuratively, not quite, but they're sister ships, very much the same in their operating capabilities. And so we were segmented into 3 parts, and then we were divided amongst 3 ships. So 1/3 of us went to the Tuscaloosa, 1/3 went to the Quincy, and 1/3 went to the Vincennes, in the same way with the other ones. So we got a segment of each of the other 2 platoons that went through training with us. And we were assigned to go aboard ship on the 5th of June, 1941 in Boston Harbor. And so an experience with recruits, we were assigned to different divisions in the ship. When I was assigned to the 1st Division, and Bob Himberg was assigned to the 4th Division, and Bill Himberg was assigned to the 3rd Division. And then when you get assigned to your segment of the ship, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the 3rd Division was with the 3rd major turret, the 8-inch gun turret on the fantail. And Bob was assigned to the 5-inch secondary battery division, and I was assigned to the division that had turret 1 and the forward and the anchors and everything up forward in the bow. Everything ahead of the captain and admiral's quarters was our section of the ship. And so I was assigned to the forward section, and when we went aboard with all of our sea bags and stuff to go, you had carrying about 100 pounds on your back. They assigned you go with that, boatswain's mate, you go with that, and they lined up about 30 or 40 guys all going to our section of the ship. Now that dirty old dog that was the senior boatswain's mate, he was first class petty officer. He took us over there for a little ways and then down the deck, and then back down through the mess hall and down the deck, and then up this way and up a deck, and over that way and up a deck, and over that way and down a deck, and over this way and down into finally our living quarters. And we were all so damn tired carrying those sea bags with 100 pounds on our back up and down these ladders, hanging on with one hand. And he didn't do anything but smile. But we didn't realize, because we'd never been on a ship, we didn't know where these passageways went, and he knew it, so he just went where it was amusing. But that gentleman, he had served aboard the Tuscaloosa in earlier years when President Franklin D. Roosevelt used it as a fishing boat. He had been aboard for 2 trips one trip to the Caribbean to take Roosevelt fishing down off some of the islands in the Caribbean, and then he'd taken him into the North Atlantic out of Newfoundland for a fishing trip up there. And he was the man in charge of Roosevelt's lines and bait and thing, and so everybody called him Roosevelt's masturbator. You know, his name was Bajork, Carl with a K, Carl Bajork, and he had been an orphan. And when he joined the Navy, he claimed that he had never had a pair of shoes on his feet. But he had to wear shoes when he was in the Navy, but his feet had soles like this on it. Well, the time that Roosevelt came aboard to go to the Caribbean, the ship was pulled into the port of Miami, where Roosevelt's train would come in and they'd put him aboard ship. And he was supposed to arrive on the train at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, when any high dignitary comes aboard, secretaries of the establishment or the president or vice president, people of that sort, the crew always man the rail in honor. And for the president, you put your best dress on, your Sunday best, and they blow the whistle and you man the rail just elbows apart. So when he come aboard, you give him a salute. And Bajork was assigned to that first division. It was his division where the admiral came aboard on the port gangway, port ladder, accommodation ladder. And Bajork has been standing out there in the Miami sun since 7 o'clock in the morning. And he's got shoes on, of course, because he's in his full dress uniform. And Roosevelt didn't come aboard till 1:30. But they never left. They didn't break for lunch because he's coming. You've got to be here, he's coming. Well, as soon as Roosevelt got aboard, he went in the admiral's cabin, and Swede set himself down on a chock right there outside of one of the portholes to Roosevelt's quarters. And he let the world know what he thought about what the president did to his feet. And Roosevelt told his chief of staff, a captain, I see what the trouble is out there. So this Navy captain came out and wanted to know the story, and Swede showed him the story. His feet are this big, he can't get his shoes on. He's damn well had no business of doing that kind of crap, you know. Well, he took Swede into the president, and the president wanted to know what's the problem, and he just picked his foot up like that, showed it to him, said, "Mr. President, I never wear shoes. You can tell by looking at my shoe that I never wear shoes. And my feet were killing me. You can see how much swelled they are today." Yeah, and so Roosevelt said, be back here at 9 o'clock in the morning. So Swede left. Now he was second-class petty officer at that time, so he figured he'd be broke to seaman and maybe kicked out of the Navy. He didn't have any idea. But he went back the next morning, and the President of the United States handed him a letter, just one paragraph in length and about 5 sentences, as I remember it, that authorized this man, Carl Swede Bajork, to go barefoot at any time he sees fit. And it's signed Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Now, I saw that letter twice because I was in Swede's division. I saw it one time when I happened to be in the compartment and he was showing it to one of his petty officers, and I had a chance to read it. And then I saw it again one time when he came aboard with his shoes around his neck and he had to show it to the OD to get back aboard. Is that it?
Pretty close, but you can wrap up.
Swede got transferred from the Tuscaloosa to Roosevelt Roads Station, Navy Station in Puerto Rico, and he caught some virus or something and died down there. But he had made chief before he went to Roosevelt Roads. But he had no family, and I often wondered where that letter may have wound up. Some guy down there with him, I suppose, some other chief or something, going through his personal belongings when they wouldn't throw it away with the president's signature on it. So. But I've never heard anybody say that.